What happens when you've done all of your resource management right and management's paying no attention? I know how frustrating that is. So let me make a proposal of what I've seen. I absolutely hate to say this, but it's what I observed. Management believes people are lazy. Now, they'd rarely say that to your face, but essentially there's a deep-seated belief that in any organization there's a lot of unproductive time, and that if people would just get their act together and just get their noses to the grindstone, everything management wants would start to happen. And that in theory is translating that says even if you show them the resource impact of this, they still don't believe you. So I am going to propose that you have to quantify it in terms of dollars, that you can't just look at the impact on people. You have to go back to management and say, well, now that we understand the resource capacity, we've made sure that we have, and I'm going to use the word projects for convenience, we're going to develop a high-level forecast on all the projects they've asked us to do, and that is going to equal value. Now, I wrote a dollar sign there, but I really want you to understand that value can be strategic value, it can be capabilities. It's got to be expressed in a term that management is very, very clear they want. And by the way, you may also find when you start presenting this that management says, yeah, I'm not sure that's really worth the price. But you've got to get a unit of measure that speaks to management. Now, I know most organizations do a very, very high level swag. I'm saying you got to do a little bit better than that. Your goal here is a high level, I'm going to call it a consulting estimate. Doesn't have to be extensive, but it's got to, every organization has lots of experience in delivering things. That's what IT does for a living. So come on, there's a huge installed base of knowledge. Little bit of work we could get here. Now, effectively what you're doing is taking control of the portfolio, because by concentrating in some organizations, in others I know this isn't true, but in an organization that will look at the fact that there is definitely resource allocation, over allocation, and pay no attention, you've got to shift it back to trade-offs. Now, another thing that you have to do is focus on of these projects sequenced for the fastest delivery possible with the right use of resources, what do you get? Because you're saying add more, and management is saying no. It's got to be do less now. It's not obvious because implicitly people buy the belief that this is all worth doing. Since it actually doesn't get done well, And a lot of projects end up just dying of old age. I've been in organizations where there are ongoing projects for 2.5 years. Why? And it wasn't and it was a 6-month project, and it's still going on for 2.5 years. By that time, we got to even ask what the value is. So by presenting this, we start to say, management, we assume these are the things you really want. From the best questions we've asked, these are your highest priorities. We can do these 10 this quarter. We can complete this 10 quarter 2. And I'm just making this up. And let's just be simple. We're going to do 40 projects this year. We're going to deliver them. There may be other projects in flight that are just might take a little bit longer, but we are going to deliver this completed. This is the value that we're going to do with our existing staff. If you wish to make changes to this list, we can change it because we now have the capability to do it. What we don't have the capability to do is the 75 projects that you asked us to do in this time frame. If you don't like the 40 we completed, tell us which ones. We have all the schedules, we have all the estimates, we have everything as neat and clean as you want to see. We're not asking you for more people. If you want the 75 done instead of the 40, we'll tell you you can add more people, you can outsource them, you can bring in one of the big consulting firms. You've got lots of options if it makes sense. But that's reframing, because this belief that there's lack of productivity in the organization is so strong that it can be hard to move it because, and there's a second reason, the dreaded politics. It could also be that you have a highly fragmented management team. Everybody wants what they want, and no one can argue with each other. So they're all going to throw it in, and they all got their portion of the 75. That's all they really cared about, was did that get in the system? And delivery, when you get politics, may be less important. You can either live with this situation because it's the politics of your company and it's how they're comfortable operating, or you can come over here and do this. Let me propose, if you look at this and it strikes absolute terror into your heart, that somebody will find out you're doing this and believe you're challenging management. Do it quietly. No one can control what you do in your office and what you think in your own head. I guarantee you that if you look at that 75 and you slowly start to make a case of doing, we'll just say, the top 15. We're going to figure out how to get, most organizations across the world can competently deliver the top 5 projects. Knock them out of the park. Let's say this year, all we want to do is the top 15. We're going to pick those to the best of our absolute knowledge. If we know we've got politics, we're going to make sure that in the top 15 is whatever each of the individual power centers wanted. We're going to make sure it delivers to the best of our knowledge, value, and it is doable in as quick a time as possible. And let's be honest, we're going to starve some of the others because they're starving anyway. Why would we want to starve 75 projects when we can simply reorient and start the rest? The concept that many managers believe, which is if I get it started, IT will finish it. That's almost a warning sign that says they don't believe IT can deliver reliably. If you can deliver the top 15 in a reasonable amount of time, that gives you the right to go to people individually and start saying, will you start to believe me that I can start some things later and still deliver? And if you start sequencing delivery, by the way, again, this is something that was worked out in manufacturing at least 40 years ago, if not longer, you're probably going to do more absolute work than you could have if you started all of the 75. So can you change the people who are telling you no? Not by confronting them directly. They're looking at the evidence. It's politics. It's a lot of things. Can you still do something valuable and productive to start to change the culture? Yeah, you can. It's actually worth the effort. So again, to say that you're not wasting your time, let's say this is getting very, very frustrating. You do this, you've learned to do it. You've learned how to play the politics. You've learned how to test the system. I guarantee you that level of knowledge will stand you in good stead no matter what else you decide to do with your career. Thank you.